Embracing the difference means pretty much like what it says.
We should recognize our differences and celebrate them.
It means to not let everybody or people divide themselves by their differences.
Uniting as one.
Being accepting of who you are.
Completely ignoring that whole like I don't see color phrase.
It means that everybody comes together.
There are a lot of factors that make you an individual and make you different and make you special.
Just becoming something powerful.
Embrace the Difference is a program that was started by my friend India Reynolds and I.
We have created this program that encompasses the topic of race, sponsored through the Center for Intercultural Community and Engagement, and it's actually through the Carl Hitchner Social Justice Fellowship.
We have held 3 workshops throughout the semester of fall 2015.
I think the main purpose for Embrace the Difference, at least for me, was really about education.
Just to create a dialogue on what we identify as, and just to inform and educate each other on those things that characterize us and make us who we are.
Race is the elephant in the living room of America's society.
It's such a controversial topic
that people really don't want to talk about.
One of our purposes was really to break down large and complicated concepts that surround racial injustice and to break them down so that someone that knows nothing about social justice could really understand what we were talking about. We wanted to create a space where students felt comfortable acknowledging race. So the first workshop was called Defining Yourself.
And just dealt with educating each other on what our races, cultures, and ethnicities are, and like why and what we identify as.
Seeing a large number of students come together and take what I would consider to be major risks in sharing who they were and exploring identities, particularly around race, with a group of individuals that had just come together. It was very, very powerful for me.
One of our objectives for defining issues was to sort of convey the idea that race is a social construct.
Race is not something that we were naturally born with, like it was made.
We also did an activity called Sorting People from PBS.
There were pictures of people from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds.
Participants had to assign identities based on a photograph.
We had to put those 20 people into 4 boxes. So basically you were forced to look at a person's face and see, or basically judge them by the physical appearance and say, okay, this person looks like he might be black, but in reality he might have been Latino.
I learned that people actually view themselves like differently than what society tells them to be. Like the boxes that people try to put you in, they have like whole different things that they can identify themselves with.
I was supposed to act a certain way, and there were a lot of like factors that were trying to like box me in.
It was interesting to see that our societal perception of what someone's race wasn't in fact how they identify.
You really have to get to know someone instead of just making assumptions right away.
It's really a big difference when you see where people come from and understand those particular things over just pre-assumptions and stereotypes.
We can't judge someone's race or ethnicity based on what they look like. It's really more of a personal thing and a personal journey of how you define yourself. No one can define that for you. You can't define it for another person.
The second one was called Addressing Issues.
We took a look at society as a whole and really tackled the topic of racial injustice. Sort of just ask ourselves, what are the issues that we see on campus?
Maybe like not really like flat out racism, but not being knowledgeable about the minority students on campus.
The biggest issue on our campus seems to be that of ignorance.
Even though you see us from day to day, you might not know like what we go through.
A lot of times we think of racism as something that exists only in the mind of racist people that are malicious about it, when oftentimes the deeper issues are racism that's systematically ingrained into our society.
We also spoke about privilege and oppression and did a privilege walk.
We asked certain questions of students that dealt with race, gender, religion, disability, all of the major forms of identity markers.
You know, if your parents went to college, take one step forward. If they didn't, you know, take a step back.
People were so shocked just to see the differences between each other and the disparities, because it was served as a visual. So it was very important and shocking to some.
And all the statements involved things that, you know, were nothing related to our own efforts or merits. They were just the things or the situations that we were born into.
I walked in thinking like, I'm Black, so I have no privilege, you know? So after Embrace the Difference, I realized, you know, I have so many more privileges than I ever thought I did, you know?
There was a really large division between those of us that are lighter or white-skinned and those who maybe identify as African American, Black, Latino, Hispanic.
Life isn't really that bad. Like, I have so many things against me, but I have so many things working for me as well.
Privileges that I had, not of anything that I was doing for myself to earn them, and that others, because they might have been born into a different situation, are oppressed not by their own choice or means, and that's a societal construct that we really have to work to get out of.
I think if you recognize your privilege, you understand how you have that responsibility then to help others that were not as privileged.
If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward.
The third workshop was called Moving Forward.
We spoke about problems and solutions within our society, but then spoke about solutions as well and how we can use those things and how we can use each other as allies in order to alleviate social injustices.
For myself, I've learned to just take pride in who I am.
I think I'm gonna continue to just be accepting and continue to be open-minded.
I think just being more accepting and understanding of people and who they are and not just judging them based on their looks.
I feel like the majority of the students on campus could just look into joining more diversity clubs and getting to know some of these students that are falling into the minority category.
Listen to the hardships that other people have. Listen to why they're marginalized, why they're oppressed, and the certain experiences that they've had that lead them to believe this.
I've learned that you can't expect any change if you're just going to sit on the sideline and not speak up about it.
Getting to know people not just because the color of their skin or because they have the same interests that I do. I want to understand like more in depth of who they are and not just basic things.
I'm hoping that what I'm learning allows me to affect social change kind of from the grassroots and really help the people who may be oppressed by society and help them figure out how to better face those societal issues.
Listen.
I need to be thankful for a lot of things that I do have.
Open the door to like these conversations.
State my opinion more often instead of just sitting back and listening to negative words be spread.
If I see something, I'm more willing to speak up about it, as opposed to keeping like my thoughts and opinions to myself.
And to have tolerance for people, even if I don't agree with their opinions, to actually let them state their opinions first before I have something to say afterwards.
Having that kind of conversation with someone that doesn't look like me with white skin, like it's so rewarding that people feel the same way.
I actually learned that people are aware of the problems on this campus and in society, and it was really heartwarming to know that.
There was a sense of awe, I think, from the students I engaged with throughout the session about even feeling that they had an opportunity to dialogue about these issues with one another.
Social change in general is not easy to fix, and it does not get fixed overnight. However, once you have the positive mindset and just the mindset and people who are uplifting you and willing to move with you and make change with you, you're able to move forward and you're able to finally unite and embrace what makes you different.
It's important to realize that it's okay to be different, and it's actually a remarkable and beautiful thing to be different, and you should embrace it.